In the village of Umeyama, where the earth was red and soft beneath bare feet, and the air always carried the scent of wood smoke and ripe palm fruit, there lived a woman called Guinea. Before sorrow learned her name, Guinea was ordinary. She woke before dawn like the other women, tied her wrapper tightly around her waist, and swept her compound until the ground looked smooth and obedient. She greeted elders with lowered eyes and never spoke where silence was expected. She worked hard and complained little. In a village where women were measured by the noise they made and the children they bore, Guinea did not stand out. She was married to Obina, a man whose presence filled space easily. He was strong, broad-shouldered, and carried laughter wherever he went. Women watched him when he passed. Men respected him. When he chose Guinea as his wife, many said she was lucky, though few could explain why. For a while, life agreed with them. They farmed side by side. They shared meals in the evenings, their knees touching as they spoke of tomorrow. At night, they whispered names they hoped to give their children. Guinea believed, with the quiet certainty of the hopeful, that her life had finally taken its shape. Then the shape cracked. The first loss came without warning. It was a hot afternoon on the farm. The sun pressed heavily on her head as Guinea bent to pull cassava from the earth. A sharp pain cut through her body. Her knees weakened. She fell forward, clutching her stomach as fear rushed in faster than breath. By the time other women reached her, the earth beneath her was darkened. The child inside her did not survive. The elders said it was unfortunate. The women said it was fate. Guinea said nothing. She returned home with empty hands and an emptier womb. The second pregnancy came quietly. Guinea told no one. She wrapped her belly carefully and prayed without words. She avoided gatherings and laughter, as if joy itself might scare the child away. One morning, by the stream where women fetched water, pain struck again. She cried out, but the women around her stepped back. Blood stained the shallow water, and fear settled like a shadow. No one touched her. By the time she reached home, the child was gone. Whispers followed her like flies. The third loss came at night. Guinea awoke Obina with screams that tore him from sleep. She held her stomach until dawn came, and with it, silence. Obina sat beside her, helpless, his face drawn tight with confusion and dread. After that, the losses did not stop. Each pregnancy arrived with fragile hope. Each ending came with deeper shame. By the fifth loss, sympathy grew thin. By the seventh, people began to avoid her. By the 10th, Umeyama no longer spoke of Guinea as unlucky. They spoke of her as dangerous. They said her womb was crushed. They said she consumed her children before birth. They said spirits had marked her. Children mocked her openly. They threw stones and laughed when she flinched. Women shifted away from her during meetings. Traders refused to sell to her if she stood too close. Obina defended her at first. He argued with elders, he shouted at gossipers, he stood in front of Guinea with insults flew too freely. But pressure is patient, it waits. The elders reminded him daily that a man without children had no future, that lineage mattered more than love, that affection could not carry a family name forward. Their words followed him into his sleep. Eventually, Obina listened. He married Inchi, a younger woman with bright eyes and a laugh that rang like a bell. When her belly began to grow within months, the village celebrated loudly. Guinea disappeared into the background. At a meeting beneath the ancient Iroko tree, an elder stood and spoke without hesitation. "Keep your children away from Guinea," he said. "Avoid her shadow." No one objected. Guinea stood among them, breathing slowly, understanding something that chilled her more than grief ever had. She was still alive, but the village had already buried her. After the meeting beneath the Iroko tree, Guinea stopped pretending. She no longer attended gatherings. She no longer greeted those who had already erased her.
Each morning she wrapped her cloth tightly and walked away from the village, following a narrow path swallowed by tall grasses and thorny bushes. At the edge of the land, hidden where roots tangled like old scars, stood an abandoned well. It was old, older than most stories still told in Umeyama. Its stones were darkened with age, and moss clung to its mouth as if trying to seal it shut. Most villagers avoided it. They said the water tasted strange. Some claimed voices echoed from its depth at night. Guinea went there because no one else would. There, she cried without restraint. She spoke to the gods she no longer trusted. She questioned them loudly. Some days she begged. Other days she accused. Once, in anger, she struck the ground until her hands ached and swore she would never pray again. Villagers passed sometimes. They slowed to watch her like a strange sight. Some laughed. Others whispered cruel things before moving on. Guinea did not answer. One morning, while her tears soaked the ground, she felt a presence behind her. It was Mama Odara. The old woman's body was bent, one leg twisted so badly that every step looked painful. Most people dismissed her as half mad, yet her eyes were sharp, too clear for someone the village ignored. She listened as Guinea cried, her face unreadable. "The gods have heard you," Mama Odara said, finally, "but their answer will not come the way you expect." Before Guinea could ask what she meant, the old woman turned and walked away, disappearing into the brush. Days later, Guinea returned to the well, not to cry, but to fetch water. She lowered the bucket. When she tried to pull it up, the rope refused to move. She frowned and pulled again. Still nothing. Her feet dug into the earth as she pulled harder. Her arms trembled, yet she pulled until her breath came in short, painful gasps.
Slowly, painfully, the bucket rose. When it broke the surface, the laughter died instantly. There was no water inside. Instead, a baby girl sat calmly in the bucket, wrapped loosely in damp cloth. Her skin glowed softly in the morning light. Her eyes were wide open, clear and steady, watching Guinea as if she had been waiting for her alone. Guinea screamed. The sound tore through the air. People scattered in panic. Some ran, calling on ancestors and gods. Others fell to the ground, frozen in fear. Guinea stumbled back, trembling. Then instinct took over. She reached out, lifted the baby, and pressed her tightly to her chest. Without thinking, she ran. She ran straight to Obina's compound. People followed, shouting and arguing. When Obina stepped out and saw Guinea holding a child, his face hardened. "Whose child is that?" he asked. Before Guinea could speak, the crowd explained everything in loud, fearful voices. Obina raised his hand. "That child is not human," he declared. "It is a river demon sent to finish what Guinea started." Fear exploded. Priests were summoned. Elders arrived rattling rattles and chanting warnings. No one listened to Guinea's cries. "This is a child," she begged, "a living child." Men grabbed her arms and dragged her back toward the well. In the struggle, the baby slipped from Guinea's hold and fell back into the bucket. As they lowered it, the rope snapped. The sound echoed like thunder. The baby laughed. The ground shook. Dust rose suddenly. Chickens collapsed where they stood. Women screamed and covered their faces. Then silence. By nightfall, the elders reached their verdict. Guinea was to leave Umeyama before the first call of the rooster. If she remained by sunrise, she and the child would be killed. Guinea returned to her hut without tears. She packed only what she could carry. Her hands trembled as she tied the baby securely to her back. The child slept peacefully, unaware of the danger surrounding her. As the moon climbed high, Mama Odara appeared once more. She pressed a small charm into Guinea's palm. She did not come to be loved. She came to change things. Then she turned and vanished into the darkness.
Before dawn, Guinea walked away from Umayama, not knowing where she was going, only knowing she could never return. Guinea walked for days without direction. Her feet swelled and cracked, her body weakened beneath the weight of exhaustion and fear. Yet the child tied to her back slept calmly, as though the road itself knew her steps and softened beneath her feet. When Guinea finally reached the village of Umoiri, she expected rejection. Instead, she found a land already broken. The houses leaned as if tired of standing. The farms were dry, their leaves thin and yellow. Hunger sat openly in people's eyes. Hope had long packed its belongings and left. As Guinea stepped fully into the land, the baby stirred and cried softly. Then, just as suddenly, the crying stopped. The child grew calm, resting her cheek against Guinea's back as though she had arrived exactly where she belonged. The villagers watched cautiously. They had never seen Guinea before, but suffering recognizes suffering. When Guinea knelt and begged for a place to rest, they did not chase her away. They offered her a small, empty space near the market. Guinea named Chisoba, God answers. Life did not become easy. Guinea worked harder than she ever had. She labored until her hands split and her back burned. Yet she never complained. She fed Chisoba first and herself last. Chisoba grew quickly, not only in body but in spirit. At the age of 3, she wandered into the arms of a partially blind beggar who came seeking food. As she touched his eyes with dusty fingers, his vision cleared instantly. The man screamed until his voice broke. By the next morning, the entire village had heard. People gathered with sickness, weakness, and pain. Guinea was afraid. She wanted to hide her child from the weight of the world. But something inside her understood. This was not a burden. It was a calling. By the time Chisoba turned 5, the land responded to her presence. Crops grew where nothing had survived before. Hunger loosened its grip on Umoiri. That's when Exile, the ruler of the village, began to watch her closely. At first, he offered protection, then favors, then quiet demands. Guinea refused. Her child was not a tool. One night, Exile sent guards to take Chisoba. They never reached her. An unseen force threw them back. Fear crushed their courage. Chisoba spoke calmly from the darkness. "Do not touch me. I forgive you today. Do not return." They fled. Far away in Umayama, suffering arrived without invitation. The rains failed. When they came, they destroyed instead of nourishing. Women's wombs closed. Men fell ill without cause. Children cried through the night. The well dried completely. Obina woke one morning, blind. Fear finally taught Umayama memory. The elders walked in shame to Umoiri and kneeled before Guinea. They begged. Guinea listened silently. Then she said no. But Chisoba listened too. She visited Umayama at night, quietly. She healed the sick without announcing herself. She eased pain without asking permission. When Guinea discovered this, anger and fear rose in her voice. Why help those who wanted us dead? Chisoba answered gently. I was not sent to punish. People punish themselves. I was sent to test mercy. She explained the well. It was a gate. What came through depended on the heart that cried. Guinea finally understood. Chisoba gathered Umayama one final time at the well. Light rose from its depths. People saw themselves, their cruelty, their silence, their laughter while Guinea cried alone. No punishment followed, only truth. When the visions faded, the well closed, forever. The villages honored Guinea with titles and land. She refused. She had carried too many names already. At dawn, Guinea and Chisoba walked away together. Behind them, the earth rested, and for the first time in her life, Guinea walked forward not as a woman defined by loss, but as someone who was finally free.